we'll get started. I'll give a little bit of a brief introduction for you guys and anyone who might be watching this online later. So this is Yin Up the Wall. So you definitely want to be set up where you have some space in front of a wall. I've got 2 mats, but if you only have 1, I might recommend having it kind of perpendicular to the wall so that you can lay your head back. Or if you have carpet and you're comfortable, really whatever works for you. In terms of props, you might want to have either a block or a cushion or a bolster and maybe a folded blanket or pillow to put under your head, just to give yourself some options. And as I mentioned, so we will be inverting ourselves. Our feet are going to be above our hearts. So take care if you have any heart or lung issues, blood pressure, high blood pressure that's not managed by medications. You want to just be very mindful and come out of any poses that don't feel good for you. And you can always come back in, but you just want to make sure that you're listening to your body. And I think that's everything. We'll go ahead and get started. So our first pose is going to be legs up the wall. So the way I would recommend getting into that is kind of scooting up so that one hip is against the wall. It doesn't matter which one. And then we'll just kind of swing the legs up, leaning back onto the forearms. And then once you're there, just kind of scooching up, getting your hips towards the wall. And for this pose, I like to use a block under the sacrum. I think it makes it a little bit more restorative and just takes some pressure off the spine. So just shoving the block right at the base of the spine onto the sacrum. And extending the legs up the wall. And we'll be here for a few minutes. So I invite you to just take whatever arm position feels best for you. And maybe let your eyes close or soften. We'll use this pose to center ourselves as we prepare for this practice. Gently bringing the awareness to your breath. In and out through the nose. Maybe doing a quick scan, noticing if you're carrying any tension in your face and the muscles of your jaw, neck and shoulders. Using gravity to just let everything soften as we rest back here. The Tao Te Ching tells us that it's a time to be born, a time to die, a time for day, a time for night, a time for motion, and a time for stillness. Maybe let this be your time of stillness, the yin to the yang of our lives. Maybe taking a moment as you rest back here to notice what it feels like to be in this inverted position, with a new perspective on life. Always, if you find yourself distracted by thoughts in this pose or throughout the practice, just observe them and let them pass, bringing the attention gently back to the breath, the present moment. And I invite you, as always, as we move throughout this practice, to just give yourself permission to modify, to do what feels right for your body. If anything feels too intense, giving yourself permission to back off a little and listen to what your body needs today. And we're here for about 1 more minute. Let's breathe. If your eyes have closed, maybe letting them flutter back open. If you're using a block or a support under your back, just pressing into the feet, lifting the hips and moving it to the side. You can move into a butterfly at the wall. So kind of resetting the hips. Bring the soles of the feet together and then slowly begin to bend the knees. Now to be careful that you don't go too far, you may want to let your hands just gently rest on your thighs. Give you a little bit more support. And just being careful not to go too far. Begin to gently engage the hips and the inner thighs. There's a sort of famous yin yoga teacher named Bernie Clark, and he talks about finding the Goldilocks position. So in yin, we want to be not too much, not too little, but just right, just at the edge of sensation. When we put too little stress on our muscles and joints, then they can atrophy. And of course, putting too much stress on them isn't good either. So we're just trying to find that balance. Maybe doing a quick check-in again, just making sure there's no tension anywhere throughout the body, just letting everything soften and relax. And maybe you notice as we're about halfway through this pose, maybe your Goldilocks position has changed. Maybe you've gone a little deeper into the butterfly, or maybe it's getting a little intense and you need to back it up a little. Just constantly checking in. Slowly, maybe with the help of your hands, straighten the legs back up the wall. And then maybe letting the legs come away from the wall. We'll take just a minute or so to move the legs, to cause tantramasana. So kind of kicking your legs like you're a baby having a tantrum. Just balancing out these long holds with a little bit of movement. A little bit of yang to balance out the yin. When you're ready, bringing the legs back up the wall. And get ready to move into a squat position at the wall. So bring the legs maybe about hip distance apart, or maybe a little wider, if that's okay with you. And we'll just bring the soles of the feet to the wall and then begin to let them slide down towards your hips, stopping to wherever you start to feel that sensation. Then turning the feet out just a little bit, kind of like 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So we're essentially in the same position as if we were doing a squat in a standing practice. Just using the support of the wall. This is a pose that I have a lot of difficulty with doing in a standing practice. So the wall version takes the pressure off of the hips and the feet. We're in the same position, so we can still find that openness in the inner thighs. And if any of this is hard on your low back, you can always just scoot your hips a little bit farther away from the wall. You don't have to have them right up against the wall. And of course, using your pillows or blankets for support in any way that feels good. And again, letting your hands rest wherever they're comfortable. And finding softness, unclenching. Observing any thoughts that may be passing through your mind and letting them float away like the clouds. Keeping the focus on the breath and the present. If it might feel good to you at this point, you can grab onto the knees and draw them in towards your armpits, bringing the feet off the wall. Be holding here, or maybe even coming into a happy baby, grabbing the outsides of the feet, maybe rocking back and forth. Maybe bending and straightening the legs as you rock back and forth. And when you're ready, hugging the knees into the chest and sending the legs back up the wall. And from here, we'll move into a wall arch with an option for shoulder stands. So this is one that you'll want to be very careful with the neck. So you might want to have either a folded blanket or a pillow to support the neck. And if you start to get into this and your neck is complaining, then you probably don't want to go any farther. So we definitely don't want to push it here. So from our legs up the wall position, the hands are at our sides, palms pressing down into the mat. The feet are about hips distance apart. And we'll just start to bring the soles of the feet to the wall and bend the knees so the feet slide down maybe about a foot, about 12 inches. And then slowly pressing into the palms and pressing into the feet, beginning to lift the hips up off the mat. Again, being just very mindful of the neck and of your back, so not going too far. We won't be here for very long. And this is a lot more supportive than a shoulder stand that we might do in a regular yoga practice. We're using the wall to absorb the weight. And just playing around with shifting the weight and finding where is comfortable for you. if it's in your practice, you may bring one leg or the other over your head, or both legs coming to full plow or snail, as we call it in Yin. But again, only if that feels right for you today. And from wherever you are, just slowly releasing the hips back down to the floor. Maybe hugging the knees into the chest, rolling out the spine once again. Maybe making some circles with your knees. And then when you're ready, letting the legs come back up the wall and resetting, maybe snuggling up closer into the wall. So your hips have shifted backwards. And from here, we'll come into eye of the needle. So crossing the right foot over the left thigh. So just sort of below the knee from this vantage point. And you can stay right here, or for a little bit more intense stretch in the hip, you can let the left sole of the foot come to the wall and then begin to bend the knee, sliding the foot down the wall. Feeling that stretch in the right hip. Letting the left foot rest wherever it's comfortable, but we probably don't want to have that knee bent any more than about 90 degrees. It can be less than that, but don't want to go past 90. And just seeing if you can find softness, directing the breath to any areas of tension or sensation. And in this position, it's perfectly okay if your butt is slightly lifted off the floor. Whatever feels good. Doesn't have to be right up against the wall. This position has a lot of different names depending on what style of yoga you're practicing. But in this particular position, it's kind of unique because we have the effects of gravity pulling that hip towards the body. Increasing the sensation, deepening the stretch. So from where you are, uncross the right leg and drawing the knees into the chest. We'll take a twist over to the right. So just letting the knees drop to the right. The soles of your feet may be resting against the wall. Melting the shoulders towards the mat. And letting your gaze fall wherever is comfortable for your neck. Maybe over one shoulder or the other, or just up towards the sky. Checking in the muscles in your face and jaw, neck and shoulders. Noticing if you have any tightness or tension. Seeing if you can find some relief. Gently, again, maybe using your hands to help yourself untwist. Drawing the knees into the chest and then extending the legs back up the wall, recentering, resetting. Before we move into that same series on the other side. So this time we'll cross the left foot, the left ankle over the right thigh. And finding your wall eye of the needle. Maybe letting the sole of the right foot come to the wall. And beginning to slide the foot down, bending the knee. Really noticing if maybe one side is more open or tighter than the other. And adjusting accordingly. It might not look exactly the same. Relaxing any tension. When you're ready, releasing the left foot, drawing the knees in, and then letting the knees drop to the left for a twist on the other side. Again, maybe noticing if the arms and shoulders feel different on this side. Maybe the hips. And just letting yourself relax and find stillness. From here, we're going to slowly and gently make our way onto our bellies, preparing for a sphinx up against the wall. So coming onto the belly, you're going to bend the knees so that your shins are up against the wall. And you can either rest your head just on your hands, folded in front of your face. Or if you're looking for a little bit more of an arch in the back, a little bit more stress on the spine, you can press up onto the forearms or even into the hands. But I don't recommend holding there for too long if you take that option. And again, just noticing if there are any muscles that you might be clenching or tensing. And with the help of gravity, just letting them relax. You may notice this is a cue that I give very often, and that's because that's a big part of my daily practice of mindfulness. I often find myself carrying a lot of tension, especially in my jaw and my shoulders. So I make it a point to just periodically check in and notice if that's what I'm doing. We're on our back for quite some time, so just taking a moment to observe how the breath feels different in your body in this different position. Feeling the belly pressing into the floor as you inhale. Now I invite you to take any last movements, maybe rocking the legs from side to side, getting a little movement in the legs and hips. And whenever you're ready, moving into your Shavasana. Now, if you haven't gotten enough legs up the wall, you can come to that position, or if you prefer to rest back on your back on the mat, just whatever feels comfortable for you to rest back for the next 8 minutes or so. Using any props to make yourself comfortable. You have pillow or blanket behind the head, or covering up with a blanket. Once you've arrived in Shavasana, finding stillness, and closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Taking just a moment to observe what's present in your body. Noticing how you're feeling after this practice that may be a little bit different from what we normally do. Gently bringing the focus to your breath, flowing in and out through the nose. Maybe noticing that the air you breathe in is cooler than the air that you breathe out, the yin and the yang. Bringing into your mind now the number 10. So I invite you, if it feels right, with every exhale, begin to count backwards from 10 down to 0. So taking a deep inhale, as you exhale, thinking of the number 10. And continuing the count till you come to 0. If you lose count, it's no big deal. You can just start back at 10. Now, letting go of the count wherever you are, returning to the natural flow of your breath. I'd like to share with you 5 affirmations from one of my favorite meditation teachers, Jonathan Lehman. If these don't land with you, no worries. Just let the words wash over you and focus on the breath in and out through the nose. I cannot change the past, but I can always do my best here and now. I cannot change the past, but I can always do my best here and now. Second affirmation, I make plans, but I remain flexible and open to the surprises that life has in store for me. I make plans, but I remain flexible and open to the surprises that life has in store for me. Third affirmation, I love myself unconditionally because it is essential to my happiness. I love the person that I am, and I do not need other people's approval to love myself fully. I love myself unconditionally because it is essential to my happiness. I love the person that I am, and I do not need other people's approval to love myself fully. Fourth affirmation, I give everywhere I go, even if it's only a smile, a compliment, or my full attention. Listening is the best gift I can give to those around me. I give everywhere I go, even if it's only a smile, a compliment, or my full attention. Listening is the best gift I can give to those around me. Final affirmation. I try to be impeccable with my words and speak only to spread positivity. It is counterproductive to my happiness to speak against myself or against others. I try to be impeccable with my word and to speak only to spread positivity. It's counterproductive to my happiness to speak against myself or against others. Slowly bringing your awareness back into your body, into the space around you. Be starting to move the fingers and toes, taking a big stretch. Slowly working your way up to a seated position. You rolling over to your favorite side and using your hands to help you press up to seated. When you've arrived in a seated position, bringing your palms together to rest in front of your heart. And just take a moment to thank yourself for taking this time to find balance, to find stillness in the middle of the sometimes chaos of life. I wish you happiness, peace, and ease. Namaste.